Greetings, true believers. Welcome back, guys. It's Raw Geek here. Yes, I've got my Spider-Man Christmas jumper on. I'm sad like that, no. Which can mean only one thing. This is a review of the latest Spider-Man movie. I don't know why that could mean only that. It could mean lots of things, really, but that's what it means today. Yes, the latest Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, the third of Tom's, and I guess the MCU version of Spider-Man. We've heard that maybe there will be more, another trilogy of Tom Holland MCU movies for Spider-Man, which is pretty cool. But for now, let's talk about the fact that this one has ended this original trilogy, and it did so with a bang. So yeah, in my opinion, definitely the best of Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies, just without a doubt. And there really was just so much to love about this movie. As you'd expect, the visuals from a big MCU blockbuster, well, this is Sony and Disney, but you know, they were phenomenal, like I say, as you'd expect. The comedy was great, the ultimately fallible hero, but who's unrelenting, you know, everything you want in a superhero movie, I guess, was there. And this won't have loads and loads of spoilers, but I will talk about a few obvious things. But just first of all, essentially, and you should know this already by now, the premise of the movie is it kicks off just after Mysterio has leaked Peter Parker's identity as being Spider-Man to everyone, and kind of framed him to make him look like he was trying to kill people and this kind of stuff, or trying to kill him and that kind of stuff, when really he didn't want to kill anyone, obviously, but it's given him a really bad name. You know, some people are thinking he's a monster. And of course, this is to the delight of J. Jonah Jameson, who is telling everyone, of course, you know, see, I told you he was a villain the whole time. And they've done J. Jonah as more of a, like an alternate media. And it's kind of like set up almost like InfoWars. I think they've done that on purpose as a, you know, as a bit of a joke, I guess. But it was quite funny to see him like that, is doing his own thing, just ranting, and I think he's a brilliant character, so that was quite funny. But of course, with Peter's identity being revealed, it's not just causing issues for him, which it obviously will, but for his friends and family as well. It's kind of ruining their lives. And so because Peter wants to fix this somehow, he goes to Doctor Strange for help, and I'm sure you've seen in the trailers and that kind of stuff, or if you've not, you know, if you've seen the movie already, you obviously know. They try and do a spell to try and make some people forget his identity, and basically it just goes kind of wrong. And in doing this, messing up the multiverse, Doctor Strange has got beings from other realities being drawn into this one, and some of them bleed through, which again I'm sure you've seen either in the trailers or heard about if you've not watched the movie already.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors.
And the back and forth with Doctor Strange, Stephen, and Peter Parker, Spider-Man, is awesome. I really love them together in the comics, in the TV shows. You know, I think they're brilliant on screen, and that was really good. And probably one of my favourite, well, definitely one of my favourite parts of the movie is their kind of fight. They're not trying to hurt each other as such, but they're trying to stop each other. And the fight is brilliant, very clever. You see them kind of, they're somewhat pulling their punches, but they kind of ramp up when they start realizing, well, actually, they're, you know, he's pretty cool, whatever. They ramp up their powers, and it's a really good fight. And the outcome is very good, much to the surprise of Doctor Strange. And yeah, it was just a really, really good scene. And one of the biggest parts of this movie, obviously, is the kind of Spider-Verse stuff, or, you know, it's leading into multiverse stuff more so, but let's say Spider-Verse because it's Spider-Man villains and that kind of stuff. And with this spell they do, there are 3 of the original founders of the Sinister Six in this movie alone. 3 of the original 6 in this movie alone for Peter to take on. The first movie, he's against Toomes, so the Vulture, and also the Shocker is in that movie. In the second movie, there's Mysterio, and in this movie, there's Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Lizard, Electro, and Sandman. I think that's all of them. That's a lot of enemies.
Hello, Peter.
And seeing those villains back from the other movies was awesome, especially Norman Osborn. Doc Ock is cool, really cool as well, and less of a villain than some of the others. I suppose you could say Norman Osborn's less of a villain because it's not really his fault he became schizo, but it's just stuff. Anyway, so they were great to see back, and there were lots of Easter eggs and throwbacks and bits of nostalgia, in particular from, like, say, Norman Osborn saying lines that they said in previous movies and that kind of stuff.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
But with so many enemies in this one movie for Peter to try and handle, it just seems like there's too many. It just seems like maybe you need some help. Yes, guys, the worst kept secret of this movie, you should know by now. If you don't know this somehow, and if you haven't seen the movie, seen the trailers, seen anyone talking about it, it's difficult to avoid if you go on the internet at all, but you plan to see this movie and want nothing spoiled, then I suggest skipping along, say 5 minutes or so, or a few minutes from here. The rest of the stuff isn't really spoilery, but maybe, you might not want to heard it, but it's not really spoilery. But this next bit really is spoilery if you've been living under a rock. Because yes, the other two Spider-Men that we've seen in recent years, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, are in this movie. And it's awesome. I have to say, when Garfield's Spider-Man turned up, he kind of stole the show at that point. It was a very funny scene. He plays Peter Parker, I think, very well. And it was only kind of outdone by Tobey's Spider-Man appearing, especially because he's not even in his costume when they find him. And they're just sort of like, who's this random old guy? But he's brilliant. Their characters, the message they have, the way they think, it's not changed, they were perfect in this movie. It was brilliant. The three together, it honestly was fantastic. I'm a little bit biased in that I like probably Tobey's the best, because Spider-Man at that point, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, came out when special effects were good enough really to portray a Spider-Man, and I saw it, being a big Spider-Man fan from before that, from the comics and TV shows, and so it came out at the right time for me, and I was like, this is amazing. It blew me away. There was a few bits about the movie which weren't great, and we're not even going to talk about the third of Sam Raimi's trilogy. The less said about that, the better. But the fact that he shoots his web directly from his wrists from like this opening, because why would it come out of his wrists? And they did make a bit of a joke actually in the movie. They're like, oh, does it come out of anywhere else? Because he's supposed to use his brains to make the shooters. But they did tear that apart, like I say, a little bit in the movie, because that always was a question, and people thought this is a bit strange, but they tore it apart in the movie in a funny way, and that was very good as well. And like I say, seeing them working together, talking to each other, giving each other pep talks, wanting to help each other, using their science brains, to come up with solutions, and their skills and acrobatics and different stuff. Like, it was honestly really, really cool to see them together. Definitely. Very, very good. Yep, seeing those three use their wits and webs to take down the bad guys gets a big thumbs up from me. And there are some other spoilery moments, perhaps teeing things up for later on in the MCU and things like that. They're not as big of a deal, maybe, as some other bits, but I'll just leave those out of this review altogether. But I would just say, and without spoiling it too much, this movie isn't just a fun romp. There are some very sad moments. It's not like a big, happy, hooray ending. It's not a bad ending. Well, it's not, there are some deeply emotional bits, and that is a main part of the Spider-Man character. He is this tortured soul. He does lose people along the way. People usually that wouldn't have been lost if they didn't know him, or if he'd made a different decision, if he hadn't tried to live two lives. And like I say, he is somewhat tortured, and that's one of the reasons why I always liked that character, because although he's got some superpowers, he was just a guy, a good guy, and he's trying to make sense of what to do with all this stuff, spider sense, tingling. And so it's just a brilliant character. Honestly, there's too much to talk about this movie without either having this video go on for ages or spoiling every little bit, and I think you do want to see this with fresh eyes as much as possible because the surprises are brilliant. So if you haven't seen it yet, I really would recommend doing so. If you have, I'd be interested to see what you think of this review, see if you agree with some of the bits I've picked out, my favourite parts, that kind of stuff. And in my opinion, this movie is by far the best MCU movie since Endgame, just without question. The others are alright, you know, some of them are okay, but this is just like up there, it's just different level. And I think this time of year, you know, if you can get out to cinema to watch it, I would recommend it. And overall, like I say, I think you can tell I think this movie is very good. I would give this 4.5 webheads out of 5. So high praise indeed from the Raw Geek. And if you're looking for more Spidey stuff, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that on Disney Plus, if you've got it, there is that 90s animated TV show Spider-Man, which I always talk about because it is the best one there's ever been. So all of the seasons are on there if you want to check that out. I recently watched Loki. I thought it was alright, but I felt like they nerfed Loki quite a lot. He didn't seem as, I don't know, as much of a god as you'd kind of expect him to be. And I'm currently watching Hawkeye. I'm up to the last episode, which I think comes out Wednesday. So tomorrow. Oh, it comes out tomorrow, I think. And so, yeah, I'll watch that, which is pretty cool. And I've been enjoying that. I think Jeremy Renner and Hawkeye as the character is good, very funny, very deadpan stuff. The stuff between him and Kate is quite good, a bit like his banter between him and Natasha, Black Widow. Yeah, it's pretty good show. So anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoy whatever you do decide to watch, and have a marvelous break. And that about do it for this one. So guys, if you like that, please click like, make sure you subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you on the next video. And until then, remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, bye. Guys, if you're still here, you're awesome! But as you are still here, why not check out some of my other videos? Oh, and if you haven't already, please click subscribe. Laters, haters.